People ask me what I did before the compact came through. I tell them I ran the library. They usually laugh a little at that, like it explains something about me, or maybe about Soot. I let them laugh. Soot doesn't mind. He was never what you'd call a performative animal. The relay station on Arvith 3 wasn't big. 4,000 colonists, 2 docking arms, 1 medical bay that doubled as a quarantine hold, and 1 public library that I had been running for 11 years by the time the compact showed up. The library occupied what had originally been a cargo staging room. High ceilings, poured concrete floors, shelves welded to the structural rib beams. Cold in the morning. Drafty near the east wall. Soot had decided the reference desk was his, and nobody had successfully argued with him since 2041, so I stopped trying. He was 14 years old by that point. Gray muzzle, 1 slightly clouded eye, the slow, deliberate movements of an animal that has decided the world can come to him if it wants his attention. He was not a large cat. He was not, by any observable measure, a threatening cat. He slept an average of 17 hours a day. The other 7 he spent watching the door, grooming himself at a pace that suggested he had scheduled it 3 days in advance, and occasionally sitting on the lap of whoever was reading at table 4, which was the warm table, the one above the vent. He had come with me from Earth. Before that, he'd come with my mother, who'd gotten him from her brother, who'd found him under a produce crate at a farmer's market in rural Minnesota in 2027. There were 4 generations of my family in that cat, more or less. My mother used to say Soot didn't belong to anyone. He just kept track of us. The compact enforcement unit arrived on a Tuesday. 40 Marines, full light armor. A logistics officer named Vreth Sokin who wore the kind of expression that suggested he had never in his professional life encountered a problem that couldn't be resolved by itemizing it. He had orders to catalog all non-essential station assets for potential compact administrative reassignment. That is a long way of saying he had come to take what he wanted and leave paperwork where the rest of it had been. I was reshelving periodicals when they came through the door. 20 of them entered the library itself. The other 20 stayed in the corridor at Vreth Sokin's instruction, which in retrospect says something about his threat assessment protocols. He had allotted, I later learned, 45 minutes for the library. He expected to be done in 30. He walked the room in that way officers do, not looking at things so much as cataloging them without quite needing to see them. His 2 junior assessors trailed him with scanning equipment. The Marines spread out along the walls. The whole operation had the brisk, airless quality of a room being emptied while still technically in use. He found Soot on the reference desk. Soot was sitting in a way he sat when he was interested in something, spine very straight, tail looped around his forepaws, the single good I half-lidded and directed at whoever had just entered his attention. He was not growling. He was not bristling. He looked exactly like what he was, a 14-year-old tabby house cat sitting on a reference desk on a Tuesday morning. Vreth Sokin looked at him for approximately 2 seconds and said something to his second. I don't speak compact fluently enough to have caught the exact phrasing, but one of the colonists who does told me afterward that the closest translation was something like, "Note the vermin. Flag for removal." His second raised a scanner towards Soot. Soot looked at the scanner. Then he looked at the second. Then he looked at Vreth Sokin. There's a thing Soot does that my mother called the long look. It is not aggression. His ears don't flatten. His fur doesn't rise. His tail doesn't move. He simply regards you, like he is deciding something, and you're not the one who will find out what it was until after he's already decided. My mother said he used to do it to the dogs in the neighborhood. The dogs would stop moving. She always said they understood something about him faster than the people did. The second with the scanner stopped moving. He didn't back up. He didn't say anything. He just stopped. His hand was still raised with the scanner in it, but it had ceased to travel toward the cat. He stood like that for what I estimated to be about 6 seconds before Vreth Sokin noticed that his assessment was no longer proceeding on schedule. Sokin turned from his shelves to see what the delay was. He looked at his second. His second was looking at the cat. He looked at the cat. So it looked at him. I want to be precise here because people have asked me to describe this moment, and I have told enough times that I'm careful not to make it something it wasn't. The cat did not snarl. The cat did not move. The room didn't shake. There was no dramatic swell of anything. Soot sat on the reference desk in the thin morning light that came through the east windows, and he held Vreth Sokin's gaze the way a very old thing holds the gaze of a slightly less old thing, with patience, mostly, and the particular quality of attention that has no need to prove anything because it already knows. The Marines along the walls had gone still. Not all at once. It happened in a drift, the way a rune goes quiet before a storm you can feel, but not yet hear. They weren't looking at Sokin. They were looking at Soot, one of the Halvora observers stationed at the door. They had 3 embedded with the unit, standard protocol for colony assessments. Took a step backward. Not a tactical step, a personal one. Sokin stood there for 11 seconds. I counted because I had nothing else to do and I had stopped breathing somewhere in the middle of it. Then he said something to his second in a much quieter register than he'd been using. His second lowered the scanner. Sokin turned away from the desk, made a short notation on his manifest tablet, and began walking the room again, but differently. He went around the reference desk. He kept a margin. He didn't look at the shelves near it. He finished his catalog in 14 minutes instead of 30, which means he skipped roughly half of what he'd intended to log, and he took nothing from the library. When he filed out, 17 of his Marines went through the far door to avoid passing within 4 meters of the desk. I didn't move until the last armored boot cleared the threshold. So turned from the door, yawned once, a long, jaw-cracking, fully committed yawn, and stepped off the reference desk onto his chair. He circled twice, folded himself down with the deliberate precision of an animal that has made a decision and intends to sleep on it, and was asleep inside of 90 seconds. I stood at the periodical shelf for a while with a copy of the Arvith Agricultural Quarterly in my hand. I thought about my mother. I thought about her brother and the produce crate in Minnesota and the way she used to say Soot didn't belong to anyone but just kept track of us. I thought about 14 years of that cat on that desk and all the things I'd never quite had a name for in him. The long stillness, the patience, the specific quality of his attention, the way he watched the door. I wondered if she'd known. I wondered if that's what she'd meant. 3 days later, a compact administrative addendum arrived at the station manifest office. It was filed under the library's asset registry, attached to a single entry. 1 Earth native Felis catus, age 14, Tabby coloration, resident reference desk occupant, station designation Soot. The addendum read, in the compact, bureaucratic language Vreth Sokin favored for all his filings. Apex class companion animal. Lineage, confirmed multi-generational. Classification, bloodline, category 1. Administrative note, no removal, relocation, or direct engagement to be attempted by compact personnel without senior command authorization. Contact station librarian for access protocols. I had it framed. It hangs above the reference desk now, which Soot ignores completely because the reference desk is his and always has been, and he requires no documentation to confirm it. He's 15 this year. The clouded eye has gotten a little cloudier. He still sleeps 17 hours. He still watches the door the other 7. My mother always said he just kept track of us. I think she was right. I just didn't know, until that Tuesday, what kind of tracking she meant.